Hi guys, it's Karen from A Yarn Tale. I'm coming to you from Chicago, where I live with my husband, our 3 kids, and our dog Max. This is a knitting podcast where I talk about what I'm working on, things that I want to work on, and things I probably should be working on but will never touch again. So it took me a little bit longer than I wanted to hop on and record because I never plan any camps or activities for my kids in August, because in January, when you have to make those kinds of decisions, it always sounds really great to me to have a part of the summer that's just kind of laid back and old school and not overscheduled, where we don't have to hop out of bed and be somewhere. But every August, without fail, I profoundly regret my decision not to plan anything, because that just means I'm the camp. So we've been going to the zoo and the pool and the beach and play dates and sleepovers and all sorts of fun activities. And it just doesn't leave really any time at all for side pursuits. So I'm glad I'm able to hop on today and talk about some knitting. Everybody decided to watch some sort of show or movie or something. I honestly, I have no idea what they're doing down there, but no news is good news. So let's not question it, and maybe we can go through a little bit of what we've been making. So let's get right into it. My first finished object is this hat. It is the Ardleigh hat by Gagnon Osborn, and it's another hat from the Kelbourne Woolens Year of Bulky Hats collection. It's a free pattern, as is the whole collection. So every month, Kelbourne Woolens releases a new free pattern using bulky weight yarn. And this one, I knit one previous. It's called the Uppsala hat, this one with the daisy stitch. But this one has cables all the way up. So I learned how to cable without a cable needle, which I'm super excited about. It was not at all hard. So I don't know what I've been putting it off for, but again, I tried to knit it for my kids, but I knit it too big. So I get another hat. I knit this one out of a skein of yarn that I dyed myself. So this whole dyeing thing has been a lot of fun, but it's kind of an exercise in humility, because I have learned how to dye the yarn so that the color sets and it doesn't bleed all over the place. But I still have really no idea what color I'm gonna get, because I was pretty cheap when I started, and I just bought a starter set that had kind of the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, and black, and some kind of navy. So all the colors I make are just kind of like a combination of those few dyes that I have. And so, I mean, theoretically, you should be able to make any kind of color, but, you know, can I do that? No. So I was trying to make a rusty orange, because I love that color. I have a pullover in it, and I was like, you know, if I could make something like that, I know I would use that color. So I dyed this skein of yarn, and I was like, okay, so orange, so that would be kind of red and yellow, and the yellow is not that strong, so I did like way more yellow than red. But it turned out Crayola marker orange, like orange, really not a good look. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't like that. So then I was like, okay, what do I do with this? What should I do with that? I was like, okay, well, maybe if I make it darker, it will be less Crayola and more something I'd want to wear. So I started with a new dye bath, and I put in a little bit of navy, the tiniest bit of navy, like diluted way down, and I got this. What? I mean, I love it. It's like a mustardy color, and there's lots of variation in there. I mean, there's like a little bit of a natural vibe to it in parts, and a little bit of a bluey vibe to it, which I guess is the navy, but it's definitely not Crayola, but it's definitely not what I was going for. But I like what I got. So I knit up this hat, and I also dyed up another skein in an identical color. I dyed them together. So this is what I got. I mean, you can see a little bit of variation. Like, can you tell that it was at one time really orange? I mean, not really, but kind of. There's like a little bit of a vibe to it. I love it. But I mean, every time I'm surprised. I mean, every time. I'm like, whoa, that's not, wow, okay, I did not know that. So if you want to be twinsies, I have this skein in my Etsy shop. Just because really, how many yellow hats do I need? But I mean, I can make another one. So this is the Ardleigh hat. I love it. I am trying to decide whether I should put a pom-pom on. The picture, I don't have the picture here, but the picture shows a pom-pom. There was a pom-pom on the Uppsala hat. I don't know. I think I might leave it without it. I do have some left. Hang on. I do have like more than, this is not really a nugget of yarn. I have a decent amount left. So I mean, maybe, I don't know. If I feel like it. I actually don't really like making pom-poms. Yarn pom-poms, they kind of, I don't know. They always end up kind of loosey-goosey. This one I made with so much yarn. I made it the tightest pom-pom and it seems to be doing all right. But after a while, they all come apart. So I don't know. I might leave it without. I like it. I think it'll go with my coat. My big puffer coat is black. And I think the black and the mustard together are a good look. So that's the Uppsala hat. I'm not gonna be able to wear it for several months because it's 85 today. But, you know, you gotta be prepared. Okay, my next finished object is my longest standing whip. And I know you're all tired of seeing it, but this is the last time. Okay, it is my Schneeflocken Pullover, and I'm gonna put it on for you because this one deserves to be modeled. So, the Schneeflocken Pullover is by Sarah Solomon of Into the Wool. It is my first colorwork sweater that I ever cast on and knit. I've since finished a different all over colorwork sweater in the interim, but this was the first one I tried. You knit it from the bottom up, and then you knit the sleeves separately and join it all together. I love it. I love how it turned out. I have not blocked yet, so it's a little bit wonky in the waist. Like right now it has a little bit of an hourglass figure. Like see that? It pulls in a little bit. But I do think that will block out pretty well. I think the color work turned out great. I had no idea what I was doing. Like if you look at the sleeves, you can definitely tell that I was not comfortable because this was the first colorwork chart I'd ever knit, and it's really tight and it's kind of, it doesn't look bad, but it definitely looks tight, right? But then by the time I got to I did the bottom, that's pretty good. And then by the time I got to the yoke, I actually was feeling a lot better. So I feel like the yoke turned out really well. It was originally meant to be a ribbed turtleneck, but I knit this out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the colorway Fossil, that's the natural color, and Pumpernickel, which is this deep brown. And Brooklyn Tweed Loft is a non-superwash wool, and it is not scratchy, but it's not really like something that I really thought would be very comfortable right on your neck. So I just did a crew neck. Also, by the time I got to the top, I was like done, like beyond done. This has been on the needles for more than a year. And I'm sure you're all tired of hearing about it. And I was certainly tired of knitting it, even though it was beautiful. So I just did a crew neck. I just did a little bit of a rib and then like picked up around like you would have for the turtleneck, and then just did a short rib. And that's it. I grafted the underarms, which I'd never done before, but I think it looks normal. I don't know. There's not like giant holes, so I was pleased with that. Okay, I know I've talked about this in the past. I did not catch my floats because I felt like you could really see them through these little bits, these little like longer sections where you had to carry it. When I caught the white yarn behind, you could see it. And certainly for the dark bits, if I caught this dark yarn behind, you would definitely spot it. And I haven't figured out how to knit ladderback jacquard yet, which I've heard is kind of like double knitting and would avoid that whole problem, but I didn't get to that yet. So maybe on a later project. So I have some pretty long floats in here. Let me see if I can find one. Here we go. Yeah, check that out. These are pretty long. So those are pretty long, but it doesn't really bother me that much. I still think it looks good. And I'm the only one that's gonna be wearing it, so I'll be extra careful when I put it on. So that's this. That is the Schneeflocken. It is done, done, done. I just need to block it, and then put it in the closet for several months until it freezes over here. That's that. What else? So that's it for finished objects. I have a half finished object. Hang on, let me grab it. So, you may recall, I dyed up this skein of sock yarn. It was my first variegated colorway, and I wasn't sure how it would turn out. I actually didn't really like what it looked like when it was in just tied up in a skein. But then once I wound it up into a cake, I liked it more. It was you could tell that it was predominantly purple. In the skein, it just kind of looked like all different colors all everywhere, really messy. But in a cake, I was like, oh, maybe I kind of like that. So I knit up a sock. This is it. I'd put it on blockers, but I don't know where my blockers are. Wait, maybe I can find it. Hey. So I knit a sock. It was top down, 56 stitches on size 0 needles, which I would not recommend. They were super tiny, but I wanted to use my 9-inch circular, and the only size I have is a 0. So this is like knitting with straight pins. It is so tiny, but I just did a vanilla sock, kind of a little bit of ribbing at the top, and then round and round and round. I did a heel flap and gusset. My heel flap is a slip stitch heel, and then what did I do? I should remember it, right? Because I have to do the second one. Oh, I did a star toe. It's like where you just knit 2 together at the end of every needle. Although I had the circular, so where the double pointed needles would be. And it makes this little, I'm not doing a good job showing. It makes these little ridges here. That's kind of like a rounded toe, which I like. Most of the other socks that I've knit have been kind of a wedge toe, and it feels good on your foot, but it looks really weird when it's not on your foot. So I thought I'd try something that was would look good even if I wasn't wearing it. So I like the way it knit up. The color looks pretty even, which I was not sure how that would work out, because I don't really know what I'm doing. But I like it. There's not like a lot of blotchy parts, and it fits really well. So I just have to cast on the other one and knit it. And I actually think I'm gonna, because I could use some socks, and I would love to wear my own, hand-dyed yarn socks. So I like that one. I have one more variegated skein. So this is kind of what it looked like when it was in the skein. It's not exactly the same colorway, because this one came out more blue. But it's like the same vibe. And when I first saw the skein that looked like this, I was like, oh, I don't like that. That looks like messy. I don't know. I don't buy a lot of variegated skeins because I just can't picture it. But I'm assuming once you cake it up, it'll be, obviously not as purpley, it'll be more bluey, but it'll be more uniform. I'm hopeful, but I don't want to cake up everything, right? Because I can only knit so fast. So this one's in the shop, and I'm hoping to do a few more variegated ones just so that I can get more comfortable with what it's going to look like knit up. Because if I look at something like this, imagining it more purpley, I would never picture something like this. So my brain needs to make the connection of what something in the skein looks like as opposed to something knit up. So this is my half finished object. I will cast on the other one and get to work on that. And that's it for finished objects. I have a couple of works in progress. Let's see. So I am knitting a shawl for the Across the Pond Shawl Kale that's being hosted by Ruth of Ruth Loves to Knit and Fernanda of Little Monkeys and Me. And here is my shawl. Okay, oops, stretch it out. Stretch it out. I have it on a longer cord. It was on a really tiny cord, so you couldn't see it at all. This is what it looks like so far. I went for really low contrast colors. Wait, here, actually the pattern shows it like this. So you cast on here at the top, and then it expands out with short rows. So it's like a combination of stripes and short row wedges. And I went for a really low contrast. I'm using this purple from Madison and State. And where's my other one? I believe it is called First Light, although I could be wrong about that. I'll put it on the screen. Fairly certain. It's like a lavender, really light lavender color. And then this pink one that I dyed up myself. Normally I would go for something that was more of a stark contrast, but I am realizing that I don't tend to wear, I love knitting with high contrast colors, but I do not love wearing them. I just sort of find it hard to go with your outfit, where if I have something that is more similar, I can be like, oh, I'll just throw that on as a scarf. And it just seems like something I would reach for more. So I really like how it's turning out. It's a fun knit. It is really intuitive. So once you get the hang of the different sections, you're like, okay, now I'm doing a wedge, now I'm doing a long stripe, and you don't even really need to look at the pattern. So I like that. I'm on section 4 of 5, so almost done, which is good because I can't remember whether the cal goes till the end of August or the end of September, but even if it's August, I think I can knock it out, hopefully, theoretically. Cross your fingers. So that is the Surge by Lisa Mutch. And then my other work in progress, what is my other work? Is that it? No, hang on. Look. Finished objects, half finished objects. That is it! You guys, I have been knitting so much and I feel like there's just like nothing to show. Okay. So that is it for works in progress, which is kind of embarrassing. I feel like I've been doing a ton of knitting, and I think this is partly why I don't knit that many socks, because there is so much knitting in this tiny little tube. I feel like I've knit like an entire sweater, and all I have to show for it is one sock. Where if you're working on a sweater or, you know, like a garment, it's a lot more gratifying to see like, look at this giant thing I made. But it is not about the quantity, it is about the quality. So that's all the knitting that I've been doing, but I have a little bit more yarn dyeing. Not too much. I ran out of bare yarn. So I took a little bit of a break because I had to order some more. Don't worry, I got some. So I can show you what I did do before I ran out. So I dyed up one of those pink skeins, which is the same colorway that I'm using for my Surge shawl. And then I dyed up this one, which is like a two-tone. I'll undo it so you can see. But it is, one side is a lighter pink, and then the other side is kind of an ombre green that goes into this tealy color. It's fingering weight, so I think it would be really fun to use in a pair of socks. Again, I'm not sure what it would look like. I haven't knit one up yet, and I only dyed this one skein of this exact combo, so I don't know, it's like a real mystery. Hang on, I'm getting better at winding up these skeins, but I'm still pretty bad at it. Hang on, get in there. Okay, wait, so here's the moment of truth. You get this jumble, right? You twist it up and you're like, oh, that looks terrible. But then if you just pull on it and like fiddle with it, it turns into a regular skein of yarn. Check it out. Things you learn. Okay, so that's that. I have this one, which I'm dying to see what it looks like knit up. And I also did a similar thing. This is just blue. It's an ombre, but so similar to how this one goes, you know, darker to light with the two colors. This is just a dark to light single color, but after I dyed it, while I was dyeing it, I completely tangled it up in the pot. Way to go, right? So I was like, shoot, I can't, like I dried it, I hung it out to dry, and then it was like just this tangled blob of whatever. So I untangled it and I rewound it on my Swift, but I must not have set the distance of the Swift to the same circumference that it was when I dyed it, because the tones of the blue like completely mixed up. So it doesn't look ombre anymore, but I promise it is. But I do think it gives you a better sense of what it would look like knit up now that it's mixed together. So I am also excited to see what this one looks like. It's because I love blue. It is one of my favorite colors. So I would definitely love some socks or something in this. You could even use it in a shawl. It's 80-20, so it's pretty plump. Look, it's working. Every time this happens, my youngest daughter is 6, and she just finished kindergarten, and she is so enthusiastic. Every time I wind up a skein of yarn, she's like, Mom, did you make that? And she doesn't mean like, did I dye the yarn? She means like, did I make this shape? She's like, that is amazing. And I'm like, it is. I mean, I gotta keep that enthusiasm because it is amazing. Way to go. Give yourself a high five. And that's it. That's it for the yarn dyeing. A couple of these are in the shop, so if you're interested, hop on over. If not, I'll knit them up myself one of these days, as fast as I can go. What else? So I haven't been doing as much knitting as I would like, partly because my kids are around and we're trying to do fun summertime things, but also partly because we're supposed to be going on family vacation next week. And we were gonna travel international. We are gonna travel to the UK. But here, you gotta hear my crazy story, and it's not a knitting story. So if you're not interested in the ridiculous minutia of my life, just feel free to fast forward. But this is what I've been obsessed with for the last week and a half. So my kids have never traveled internationally, so they didn't have passports. And it was really hard to get a passport during COVID because nothing was open and you have to appear in person, and in-person meetings really weren't happening. So I kind of put it off, and then we planned this trip to the UK. So I was like, okay, I gotta get the kids' documents in order so that they can come. So back in April, I put their whole application together for all the kids and their birth certificates and their photographs and my husband's notarized consent so that I can show that I'm not trafficking children, and bring them down to the post office, and we apply. And we submit all our documents, and we sign the forms and send them off. And then it was supposed to go overnight. So I'm looking at the tracking number online, and my application packet never got where it was supposed to go. So I waited 1 week, I wait 2 weeks, and it still just says, the US Postal Service just says like, it's in transit. I don't know, right? But it was supposed to be overnight, and it had been like 15 days. So I'm like, okay, well, this isn't good. So I call, and I couldn't actually talk to a human being because human beings are hard to come by in the Postal Service phone system. So I traipsed back to the post office, and they're like, that's really weird. Yeah, no, I see how it says it's in transit, but it didn't actually get there. Okay, so I'm gonna transfer you to the Department of Missing Mail. And I was like, department? That sounds like something out of Harry Potter. Okay, that doesn't sound good. And so I'm working, I have like a case number, and they're trying to find it. They can't find it. And so I was like, okay, great. I mean, we can work on finding it, but like, what about the passport applications? Because like, I need passports, and it's sort of time sensitive. I mean, at this point it's May. And so they're like, yeah, I could see how that would be time sensitive. You could just apply again, I guess. You should just apply again. And I'm like, all right. So I put the whole packet back together again, and I get photographs and birth certificates, and I drag all my kids back to the post office for a second time, and we apply again. And then in June, passports appear at my house, and I was relieved. I said, okay, great, that's perfect. We got the passports. But then at the end of June, I noticed that my other round of checks, because you have to pay to get the passports, I should have avoided the checks, but I didn't, because I didn't even think of that. My other round of checks was cashed. So I was like, oh no, what's happening? So I call up the State Department, and I'm like, oh, here's what happened. They lost my application, but then I applied again, but then the other one is now in process. And they're like, oh no. Well, here's the problem. That second round of applications then has voided your children's passports because you can only have one at a time. So the passports that I had were no good. So now it's July, right? It's like the end of June, the beginning of July, and we're traveling in a month, and my kids have no passports. I mean, they have I'm holding them. I'm holding these passports, but they're no good. So I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so I mail all the passports back, and theoretically that's gonna like reactivate my second application. So, okay, great. But obviously the second round of passports didn't arrive in time because at that point there's only like 4 weeks to go. So I'm freaking out, right? My husband's like sort of nervous. I'm traveling with my in-laws who are lovely people and they're nervous. They're like, is this trip even happening? And I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. So it's 2 weeks before we're supposed to leave, and I'm able to get an in-person appointment with the State Department in Chicago. Yay. And so I drag my kids and like a whole third application with like birth certificates and photos and like checks and the whole shebang, right, down to the State Department. And they got them. They processed it and whatever. And so I haven't really put all this to say, I have not really done the amount of knitting that I want to do because I've been freaking out about my children not having official documents. But we got it. We got it. And so we're definitely going, which means I have to figure out some good travel projects, which I have not thought about at all because up until 2 days ago, I didn't know if this trip was still on. And I didn't want to get everybody's hopes up because that would be so mortifying. I mean, honestly, can you imagine if I did not call the State Department and I just traveled on those passports that my kids got in the mail that were then void? Because don't they only check your passports when you land? I mean, they look at them in Chicago, but I'm pretty sure they don't run them in any sort of official capacity. So, I mean, can you imagine if my whole family schlepped their way all the way over the Atlantic Ocean to Heathrow, and I've got my husband and my 3 kids and my in-laws, and then the person at Heathrow says like, I'm sorry, ma'am, these passports are void. What? I mean, I can't get over that horrible scenario. It would be so bad. So I'm glad I called. I'm glad we worked it out. We're all set to go. But I need to figure out what I'm gonna make while I'm there. So I was considering, I have these cones. Hang on. They're right here. I bought 3 cones of Ito Kinu, which is lace weight, 100% silk. It's 464 yards to 50 grams per cone. And this is the colorway Aqua. I bought 3 cones. I wound up 2 because I think I might use them. And I was gonna use them for a shawl for my mom, but I ended up going with a different yarn. But I am considering knitting up a ranunculus out of this. I've never knit the ranunculus. Again, I feel like I'm the last person on earth. I looked on Ravelry and there are literally 14,000 projects on Ravelry for this pattern. But it is by Midori, Hirose. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, so if I'm not, please correct me. But, and you can knit it in a lot of different weights of yarn. There's like, you can knit it in lace weight or fingering, or I believe even a DK. A lot of people held fingering and mohair together. You could do short sleeve, you could do long sleeve, and it's kind of a one size fits all, so you adjust the size of your garment with your gauge. So I was considering I have enough yardage to hold these double and do the short sleeve version. I might have to break into the 3rd cone. I'm not sure, I haven't gauge swatched for it yet. But I do have enough either way to do the short sleeve version. I think it'd be really pretty. It's kind of a slubby yarn. It's not slubby, it's like textured. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not. Here, wait, if I hold it here in front of my dress, there's like a little bit of a texture there. It's 100% silk, so there's not a lot of give to the yarn. So it might be annoying to knit with, but I bet it would be really drapey. So I was thinking of maybe doing that. And I kind of like the idea of having a new project for when I travel because it'll be pretty small. I mean, other than taking a big sweater or a garment or, you know, something in a big bag. I would definitely do the short sleeve because especially making it out of this silk, it would be more of a summer top than a longer winter pullover. But I'm gonna knit up a swatch and see what I get. I am not a huge fan of lace weight, but maybe if I hold it double, it'll be better, right? It could. I checked on the Ravelry projects and there are a couple projects that used this specific yarn held double and I like the look of it. There is lace in the yoke, which I'm not that great at lace, but it's a really small section and a lot of people have made this. So it can't be that bad if all those people have managed to come up with a finished garment. So I don't know. I'm a little bit weirded out by the amount of positive ease in that top. A lot of them are like 46 centimeters of positive ease, which is just so much. But I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a try and see what I get. And if I like it, I like it. And if I don't, you know, I'll know. But a lot of people have made multiple of these, so I'm thinking maybe I'll come up with something that I like. So that's it. I feel like it's been so distracted over here. The Chicago Yarn Crawl was last weekend and I did not even get to participate. I had all these plans to go to Nina's and go to Miss Pearl Chicago and a bunch of the other stores in town that I really love. I haven't been to Yarnify in a long time, but I didn't even get a chance to go. Like, what with the passport bonanza and just summertime busyness, like, it didn't happen. So I'd love to go yarn shopping fairly soon, because especially if I use up these cones, I don't have any kind of quantities. I'm just looking over in the cubby over there. I don't have any kind of quantity of yarn for sort of a larger project, like garment, a sweater, or any kind of thing that would take multiple skeins. At this point, I only have single skeins, either that I dyed myself or 1 or 2 skeins of similar color that I've picked up along the way. So that is sad, but it's also really exciting because that sort of leaves the door open for planning projects for the fall. So I'm really excited about that, and I would love to do another meetup virtually, because it was really fun. We did meet on Zoom a little bit not too long ago and say hello, and it was nice to put some faces to names, so I'd love to do that again. So I'll take a look at the calendar and see if we have any times that would work for people to pop on and say hello. I hope wherever you are, if it's warm outside, you get to enjoy the weather, and if it's cool outside, you can be nice and cozy and get some knitting done. And thanks so much for spending time with me. If you like this video or the channel, feel free to subscribe or pop a comment down below. You can find me over on Instagram as knotfancyknitter, and I'm also on TikTok as knotfancyknitter. My stuff on TikTok is more general, and it kind of applies to people who don't knit as well. So if you're up for that kind of thing, hop on over. I would love to see you. I always like to see familiar faces because there's not that much crossover between the YouTube crowd and the TikTok crowd. So if you happen to find yourself over in that neck of the woods, I would love for you to say hi. And hopefully I'll pop on again soon. Once school gets back into session, things really sort of settle down here during the day, because there's a period of time where I know that nobody's gonna be home and I can record more regularly. So I have high hopes for September. But take care, and thanks for stopping by, and happy knitting. We got some problems, people. Okay. Hang on.